Hi, everyone. I'm Mackayla, and today we welcome Moonwalker to the soundtrack of our lives. He's going to talk to us about his new album and the tour that he's currently on. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so how do you prepare for tour?
I guess besides just like practicing and stuff like that, I did do this time, I did some vocal every day leading up to it. I would do vocal warm ups just to make sure that I wasn't like thrown completely in the deep end when I started having to sing every day. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I guess when I'm thinking about the prep time, it mostly goes into just like the logistics and like planning, just like getting from here to there and where we're staying and all that stuff. But there is a whole, I don't know, like when you realize that it's like a week or two away, it's like, oh my God. And you start mentally just preparing yourself for
Mhm.
that to be your life.
Do you have any pre-show rituals?
No, we should honestly make some, but right now we don't.
You can start now.
Yeah, no, we seriously should. I feel like we've made a plan before to do like a pre-show, like to establish a chant or
Mhm.
like one of the where you put your hand in type thing, but
Yeah.
we have nothing stuck yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully, maybe somebody can send you some ideas after this is out.
Yeah, true. Seriously, please DM them.
Do you have any that you're drawn towards or any type of rituals that you think are cool?
This one's not cool at all, but in my old band, we used to go like one, two, three, and then four. We would
Hmm.
all put our hand, which is the stupidest thing ever. But we did do that before every show. I don't know though. I feel like they're inherently like not cool at all,
Yeah.
but that's okay. That's not why you do them.
No, if it works, it works.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so your new album, Apocalypticism, did I say that
Uh,
right? Yes,
yes,
that is a mouthful. Um,
it is hard.
so yeah, it explores the themes of an impending apocalypse and society's tendency to have a hive mind.
Mhm.
So are you seeing those themes in today's world?
Massively, yeah, yeah, massively. I think that yeah, for sure. I feel like that it's even like the interesting thing with like the hive mind thing was just like it
Hmm.
seems like everybody kind of has that feeling. I wrote a song that actually didn't make the record, unfortunately, because it probably would have helped drive the concept home. But I do feel like everybody kind of has this feeling that like things are reaching kind of a boiling point, that things are really
Yeah.
getting especially bad, on both sides, and obviously they have different reasons for believing that, but it does seem like there's just like something in the air that everybody feels like not like the world is ending or something like that, but
Right.
that like, that like the world that everybody thought that we were gonna be like living in is
Hmm.
not exactly that. And so that was even kind of like the hive mind thing is not even so much like criticizing people for like, oh, a bunch of sheep kind of thing, as much as just like, there's like things tend to just be on our public consciousness for one reason or the
Hmm.
other, whether it's just because we all just get kind of the same feelings or whether like the same kind of like movies and world events and art and stuff like that
Hmm.
is being consumed by a lot of people, and so they're all sort of ending up in a similar place. But yeah, I would definitely say that even since I like started writing it, that's gotten more true, and I'm sure it will just continue to
Yeah.
get more true like indefinitely. Like I don't necessarily see us improving anything at the rate that we would have to
Yeah.
in order to sort of make it not feel like we're living in a pre-apocalypse world.
So what would make it feel like we're not living in a pre-apocalypse world?
I mean, it'd be great if we weren't like essentially in a Great Depression, and if, like obviously there wasn't as many insanely massive conflicts in the world that weren't so
Hmm.
close to involving so many more countries and entities and people and
Yeah.
lost lives. And if all of the issues that we in America for the past, even just in America, of the
Hmm.
past, of course, the past maybe 15 years even have started to kind of address and bring to the surface, if we were able to actually make progress on those things, which we really aren't. We make kind of like performative progress, like we
Hmm.
make progress that sort of looks good. We can say like, oh, look, we passed this bill or something, but then it gets
Yeah.
undone, or we just didn't really get to the root of it, or it remains all these years later still kind of up in the air, and there's one side trying to go back on it. So it just feels like every single thing is, and I mean obviously the most from a literal perspective, like we don't have that much long left to change our habits,
Hmm.
you know what I mean, and we aren't doing that, and now it's to the point where like the rate that we would need to change our habits in order to sustain the world is just like not gonna happen. Like there's
Yeah.
literally no way that it's gonna
Hmm.
happen. And I think that that's becoming even like, even for people who don't believe in like global warming or something like that, the effects of it are becoming impossible to ignore. They can say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's not global warming. That's this. That's what." But like, you can no longer just be like, "Oh no, I don't see that. That's not happening." Like
Yeah.
you can choose to just create these ridiculous stories in your brain to justify, why it's not this perfectly scientifically sound explanation.
Hmm.
But we are all feeling the effects of it, whether we're smart enough to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was listening to a podcast NPR did the other day about the key deer, which is a specific deer. They liked it to like a deer similar to Bambi that is native to the Florida Keys and only lives there, and its natural habitat is being destroyed by the rising sea levels. And they got into the concept of what to do because if you move it to somewhere else, then it becomes an invasive species and it will mate with the other deer and it will become extinct. Or we could let it naturally go extinct or put it in a zoo, but then we're only putting it in a zoo for our consciousness. And then, like, we're putting money and everything into that. And then I don't remember the name of the researcher they were talking to, but he's like, essentially, in the future, it's going to come down to putting the resources towards saving that deer in the zoo or towards humanity.
Yeah. Dang, that's interesting. I didn't know about that deer. And we'll obviously start seeing that more and more and more with different species. Obviously things are going extinct at a very alarming rate. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. That's crazy. It's funny that that's the one time where people are looking at like the moral dilemma of a zoo
Yeah.
when it's absolutely necessary. They're like, I don't know. Maybe that's not the best place to put it.
Yeah, but it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely.
It's no easy answers.
And there's no I mean, the only it might be too late now, but the only thing we could have possibly done is try to do things to preserve its habitat so that it
Right.
doesn't, and we didn't.
Yeah.
And they sure as fuck won't, like
Yeah.
Florida certainly is not going to. Even if some people are willing to kind of do what it takes, there's no way we'll get everybody in agreement. And
Hmm.
there's definitely no way that we will get entire geographic
No.
locations, to agree. There's just no way.
Yeah. So your song Singing for No One is described as a glam rock ballad influenced by artists like the Beatles and David Bowie. So how did those musical legends inspire that particular track and what makes it a personal song for you?
Oh, good question. I guess those are like my biggest just influences, period. Probably like
Hmm.
so much so that like they are definitely Bowie and the Beatles are not too far from anything I make. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there was a thing like I think when I started Moonwalker where I wanted to sort of not do the same like glam rock, sort of melodic soft rock, like
Hmm.
power pop type stuff that I had done for
Yeah.
like a super super long time. I'd done that for like years, and that was sort of the whole thing with my old band, and I love that stuff. But the whole kind of point in starting this was to, like, not do that.
Hmm.
And then when that band broke up, it sort of became more like, well, I do still like that stuff, and I'm still good at that stuff. And so I kind of tried to, on the last record and on this record, sort of bring it back into the fold, sort of.
Hmm.
And that was a song that I actually, I wouldn't even say I consciously was like inspired by those guys, but I'm not good enough at piano. Like when I sit down at a piano, it only goes to a couple places, you know what I mean? And that would mostly be in kind of like the Elton John, Beatles, Paul McCartney type space. And I wrote that like when I was doing my first record when I lived in LA a long time ago, just like the
Yeah.
I never finished it, and I sort of just like forgot about it entirely. And then I moved home to Colorado. My parents actually have like a real piano, and I was messing with it, and I sort of like accidentally like rewrote it. Like it was like I was just like, oh, what's this? Like this is cool, and like figuring it out. Like chord change by
Hmm.
chord change. And then I was kind of like, did I rip this off from someone? And then I was like, yes, no, from myself. Like this is an old song that I wrote a long time ago. And then I finished it there. So I wasn't even necessary. It wasn't so, maybe I guess the closest to it being consciously inspired by those guys was when I had the song. I was like, it'd be a pretty cool sort of like ELO Beatles thing to get some strings on it.
Hmm.
Really kind of further hit home that vibe.
Hmm. Yeah, so this is your third album. So what was the process like after already having two albums out?
Oh, good. The process didn't really change at all, except for the fact I moved to New York. So I did the other two records when I lived in LA, and I did this one when I lived in New York.
Hmm.
Same approach, same kind of like, it was just like me, like in my studio, just messing with things by myself. But I think that the sound difference on this record could just probably be attributed to a change of sort of surroundings and like,
Hmm.
just like lifestyle. Everything I see is different
Yeah.
and everything I do is different. and also just like getting better. Like there's some things like I've been a good guitar player since I've started Moonwalker, but I kind of was just like learning how to sing and produce
Hmm.
as I went along. And this is probably the first record where I'm like properly good at singing and producing, you know.
So when you go in to start putting the album together, how does that process work for you?
Oh, good question. I sort of at least started on like a song by just like I'm writing songs
Hmm.
without very much of a. I think that like at some point when a couple songs are done, then a few sort of like for instance I wrote a couple songs and I was like okay like the apocalypse kind of thing keeps coming up. Like
Hmm.
certain like when I was working on my last record, it was like I've got like 3 or 4 songs where I mentioned like mirrors and sort of the
Hmm.
concept of using that as like a I don't know, metaphor is not the right word, but using that as like a way to show just people sort of not liking what they see in the mirror and
Yeah.
and how that affects how they maneuver the world. So I'll kind of write a few songs without really any acknowledgement of the record or anything,
Hmm.
and then sort of every time those songs have like had consistent themes and a consistent sound and I've been like okay this is clearly the record, then I can kind of like fill out space like what's
Okay.
necessary. None of these are a good first song, none of these are a good last song. I'm missing a ballad, I'm missing there's a lot of songs that have this energy, there's stuff like that starts happening. So I wrote like Monkey See Monkey Do, American Dream, maybe Hive Mind before I was kind of like this is what the record is going to be, this is, and that's when I
Hmm.
started being like okay I need a first song. So then I wrote like Apocalypticism, sort of knowing I wanted to have like a song sort of like that
Hmm.
starts like very just like very kind of vibey and then hits into this like very Queens of the Stone Age kind of just like
Hmm.
quarter note thing. And yeah, I knew I needed like a ballad to end it. So Singing for No One became that. But yeah, every time I've kind of done it, and I'll probably change the approach with the next record, but every time it's sort of been just like write some songs and then sort of see which ones. And I always like write songs that I like that
Hmm.
just as I'm kind of putting the record together, they just don't really have a place. So that's also sort of like inevitable, but like I'll just write and then at some point it will kind of like start to come into view. Like the whole thing will start to make sense.
So when you were writing Monkey See, Monkey Do, can you talk about creating a distinctive sound that is featured on that song?
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of Primal Scream's Exterminator record at the
Hmm.
time, and the first song on that record, I think it's called "Kill All Hippies" or something like that, is so sick. And there's like a guitar riff that has like a phaser, like what I kind of used on Monkey See Monkey Do, and also I kind of used it on American Dream, where it's like going left to right
Yeah.
and then right to left. And it was just so cool. I knew that I think at first I was like, I want to open a record like that. So I think I was
Hmm.
kind of thinking Monkey See Monkey Do would open the record. But so I did this guitar thing. I found like a similar effect and just saw how that effect kind of spoke to me. And that was that like guitar like that like weird thing that goes
Hmm.
for pretty much the entire song. Damn, what even came next? That was like the first song I wrote for this record. So that was feels like a lifetime ago. I'm trying. I
You
guess
can
I
make
had
it all
that.
up.
No, I'll just make it up. It came to me in a dream. I had that part, and then I think I did like a drum loop, just placeholder thing, and probably started kind of working on the vocals. Yeah, I do remember with that one. I remember like I was at my parents' house, so I didn't have like a shaker, like I didn't have like a
Hmm.
tambourine or anything. So I used like a sprinkles thing, like an unopened Mr. Sprinkles thing as the
Yeah.
shaker. That was funny. And I didn't have a keyboard, so I like used a really really verby like guitar where I basically took out all of the dryness out of the
Hmm.
verb, and that was like the pad sound. So I remember that. I mean, I remember that. I remember being like crafty with that song more than I remember like kind of the divine inspiration or something. I also like my mom always said growing up, she's always said monkey see, monkey do. So it was just in my brain. I don't know, it's a funny quote.
Yeah. That's really cool that I wouldn't have thought to use like sprinkles as a shaker, but it makes a lot of sense.
Anything that I've always sort of like, you could use anything like for a shaker. I in LA I had these like weird like fruit maracas and stuff, and then I got
Hmm.
like a real shaker, and sometimes I like preferred the like fruit maracas, so I'd use that. So I was always like anything that has shit in it can be,
Yeah.
you can put like rice in a can and close the top and do it. So I knew that I could do anything, but there was just this unopened Mr. Sprinkles that was just like staring at me, and I was like, this would be hilarious to use. So I did.
You gonna use it again in another song?
That's a good call. I'll have to go get it from my parents' house. My parents are like klepto. They don't throw shit away. And so I have there's like food in their fridge in their pantry that has expired like decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Not definitely expired absolutely decades ago, but it definitely is still there.
Mm-hmm.
If I go back, I'll snag it and it'll become like my go-to shaker.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so give the people what they want. You've said that that could fit well on your previous albums. So why did you choose to put it on this album?
Well, I hadn't written it. I wrote it for this album,
Mm-hmm.
so it probably would have like. Sometimes when I'm writing, I'll like actually every time I'll like the way that I know a record is done is because like I'll start making songs that I like, but that just don't fit on the record. Like I'm like
Mm-hmm.
this is really cool, and like I want to release it, but it just doesn't fit here. If hypothetically I had wrote that song in that predicament, like hypothetically if I wrote that song at the end of when I was writing Attack of Mirrors, I would have put it
Mm-hmm.
on Attack of Mirrors,
Okay.
but I don't think I wrote it till after Attack of Mirrors was even like released.
Mm-hmm.
The first song for this record that I wrote that I was like, okay, this is good, but this is not going on Attack of Mirrors was Monkey See Monkey Do.
Okay. So with apocalypticism, which is the title track, what do you aim to convey through that song?
That's a good question. I guess I'm so not good at sort of like picking one message and
Mm-hmm.
sticking to it within a song, you know, like it kind of shifts every like verse almost just in general in all of my songs. Every
Mm-hmm.
like verse is kind of about like a different thing, even if it's about sort of the same issue, but from different perspectives. Like, so I would say that like maybe the first verse of that song is kind of about how people get just like radicalized, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And how people get in positions of spreading misinformation that radicalizes people and what their motivations are
Yeah.
and how people are susceptible to that. And then I would say that the choruses are I don't know more than anything like emotionally fueled. Like that was when like the Kanye stuff was happening
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like a pretty freaky time, you know? And so I like knew I had to make a song about that. And something I do in my music a lot is like I will, and I'm sure that it's caused it to get misinterpreted sometimes. Like I will sing from the perspective of like who I'm criticizing to kind of hopefully sort of convey like look at how stupid you sound, like look at how
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous this is when you say it out loud, you know? Even though, you know, I think stupidity is like taking a step up. Now a lot of stupid people will say the quiet part out, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
my hope is that like when I say it so bluntly, people will be like, that's dumb. Nobody agrees with that. That's
Yeah.
horrible. But the truth is that like, yeah, no, now like there's an entire 50% of the country says the quiet part out loud. They say something more. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, that's the crazy part of what you believe. Like that's you don't believe it. Like you don't actually think like that. That's just like the unspoken consequences of you believing what you believe. But no, people actually truly do. Just like
Mm-hmm.
are just like horrifying people now. Not everyone, obviously, but like there, I would say that there is a particular political party of which well over 50% are truly, truly, truly morally abhorrent people. And it is always my hope that by sort of saying what they are too afraid to say, they will
Mm-hmm.
realize how ridiculous it is. I don't think that that's true, but so that's kind of what the chorus is like, you know, you can sort of distance yourself from like various hate groups,
Mm-hmm.
but when you behave identical to them, it doesn't really matter that you're kind of on the surface being like, oh, but like, yeah, oh yeah, I don't like neo-Nazis, but it's like, yeah, but you voted for a guy who's like literally enacted the first three steps of fucking Hitler's final solution. So I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
you clearly don't take that much issue with it. And so that was kind of the chorus, I guess, is just like saying how I interpret what they are saying. And then the second verse, maybe more so from sort of my perspective. Yeah, I guess would be the way that that breaks down. So it's all about sort of the same issue, just like kind of, and like a lot of my music, like about just kind of people getting like radicalized and sort of brainwashed into doing something horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And in almost all the songs, that something is not really like stated. It's not really like stated like this is what we did. You know what I mean? This
Right.
is what the TV made them do. This is what, you know, the guy in Devil did. It's not that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really happen. But it is sort of just like showing the slow path from how a person who might have relatively good intentions can accidentally become like a fucking super villain,
Yeah. Which is unfortunate.
which is very unfortunate and unfortunately like insanely common. I would
Yeah.
say for the first time, there are a lot of people who don't just kind of have good intentions and are falling short. I think that there's just like so many really, 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 really bad people, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what impact do you hope your music has in the world?
If you would have asked me like a year ago, I would have said I would hope that I could kind of change people's minds. I don't think I can. I don't think anyone can. I
Mm-hmm.
now hope that I can just kind of, I don't know, I get it. Like on some of those days you're so worked up about things, you're so like pessimistic and everything feels so like hopeless.
Yeah.
I hope that I can just like, you know, maybe I do it for myself. Like I hope that
Yeah.
by making music I can make myself feel less like that while I'm working on the song, really. But as far as like why I would release it, yeah, I hope that they can help people like me, I guess,
Hmm.
kind of get some anger out and feel a little bit less hopeless. I don't think that I think that there's a lot that the people who I criticize can't be reached. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily hold on to the delusion that I can open their minds anymore. But I do hope that the people who kind of are impacted by their actions can sort of maybe find a bit of an outlet in the
Yeah.
music.
That's a good take on it now that it's kind of hard to change people's minds.
Yeah, no, I that's been a hard reality. Even having people like who I find fucking despicable being like, "Well, I agree. I completely agree with that song." And it's like, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, no, you're entirely fucking wrong. You entirely missed it. It's literally about you." So it's like,
Yeah.
and I mean, like it's just that you can see, like, if you go to Rage Against the Machine's Facebook page, it is
Hmm.
populated with 70% people who are like, "You totally switched up. You're raging for the machine now," as though they've changed a single one of their views. So like no matter what, I could say the most on the nose shit ever, and the people
Hmm.
that I am criticizing will definitely think that I am agreeing with them for sure.
Right.
It comes
You
with the
just twist
territory. I mean,
it.
like again, it's not like a difference of opinion. Like the people I'm criticizing, they don't like disagree with me on like taxes. They
Yeah.
disagree with me on like how to treat human beings who don't look like them. Like these are
Yeah.
fundamentally fucked up human beings who are fundamentally not intelligent, not
Hmm.
uneducated. I think that word is dumb as shit.
Hmm.
Uneducated people still know to treat other human beings with respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
uneducated. They are no amount of education can fix these people. They are fucking stupid. Their
Hmm.
brains do not function how they fucking should. All right, a lot going on in the world. Pretty pissed off at me.
So when you get, so far down in this kind of mindset, how do you bring yourself back and kind of see the positivity in the world?
Well, making music is the way that I regulate
Hmm.
feeling so angry about it. Like that's the single way that I know how. By surrounding myself with people who are really caring and really smart. Like people
Hmm.
in my orbit don't believe this shit. I would never dream of having any tolerance for that ever. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's like a generational thing. My parents think very similar to me, but they kind of associate themselves with and are friends with not great people, and it's just different. It's different.
Yeah.
You come from a school of like, oh well, we don't talk about politics at dinner. We don't There's these things we don't talk about this, and I don't know if it's a now thing or if it's or what, but like politics, it's so entwined with your identity. Like
Hmm.
it's so entwined with your view of the world and of other
Yeah.
people. Again, maybe it was less like that in like the 80s. I don't know, I wasn't around, but right
Hmm.
now it's not simply when you say you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian, you're not talking about like, oh, I want a big government, oh, I want less
Yeah.
taxes. That's not what it means anymore. That's not. And if you're voting on account of those things, you're still a wretched human being
Hmm.
because you are inadvertently making other human beings' lives horrifyingly terrible so that you
Hmm.
can do what you think might stimulate the economy more. Like we've got bigger shit to worry about.
Yeah.
It's not even if you still go about the world in that way where you're voting on account of these things and you're ignoring all these other more present things, you're still just it's I still have no tolerance for that. But there might have been a time back when back when the Democratic Party and the Republican Party were both homophobic, and it
Hmm.
became like, well, which tax plan do you like better? And then you can put your differences aside, but it just isn't like
Yeah.
that. Just not like that at all. And so I mean, I do not surround myself with people who remind me how just venomous we can be. I don't do
Hmm.
that. You know what I mean? I have no tolerance for that. If somebody says something like that, then I'm not talking to them again. So yeah, I try to put some distance between that and myself. And when I'm forced to confront it, which you are constantly because of
Hmm.
social media and the media and
Yeah.
remind elections and what, then music and performing is pretty much my outlet and
Hmm.
venting like this.
Yeah. So how do you deal with, the idea of having to be like always present on social media, but also, taking time for yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, that's definitely still a constant struggle. I just like know myself well enough to know that maybe there's not really that healthy of a way for me to use social media. Like if I didn't have to be on it, I probably just would not be on it at all.
Hmm.
So I really try, because I can just get really sucked in,
Yeah.
and that can be where a lot of this anger comes from, honestly, as well. Is on social media you get exposed to all of this, you know what I mean? And you
Hmm.
see one wrong video and then suddenly that's like your feed, and then things start to feel very dire and very
Yeah.
scary, and so I really try to just stay off. It's easier on tour when we're always
Hmm.
doing fun things and I'm with all my friends, and and there's so much to do. But like I really try to kind of make the post, because that's pretty essential for furthering my career. Make the
Hmm.
post, log off for the day,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I don't always do that, but that's
It's
sort of,
hard.
it's really hard. Yeah, exactly. But that's like my goal. That's like if in a day I can make the post and log out for the rest of the day, that's a win.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Regardless of
Yeah.
how the post did, like that's a win.
Okay. So you recently signed a publishing deal with Warner Chappell Music. So what does that mean to you, and how do you see it shaping your future as an artist?
Oh, I mean, so I guess the big thing with it was I really just like the people who will be representing me there.
Hmm. That's
Mark and
important.
Greg, they're just awesome. And yeah, that was really the key. Was like in the meeting we were talking about like Daredevil and comic books and Bowie and T-Rex and all of my, fucking special interest basically. And
Hmm.
they just really got it. They really understood kind of the places in which my music would fit. And publishing, I know the importance of publishing. I used to make music for sound libraries. So
Hmm.
I would like live off of basically like sync money,
Yeah.
totally different animal. But I understand that that's pretty much, if you care about nothing but money and you want to do music,
Hmm.
you should be chasing the publishing end of things. But the more specific the stuff you're making is, the less kind of general and broad and, I don't know, like marketable to a big group, the
Hmm.
harder the publishing angle becomes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
the key to a really successful song and sync is essentially that it sounds like the most popular artist today,
Hmm.
and it has a vague message. And that is super not like what Moonwalker is. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
obviously my options are limited there, but I was basically like, well, I mean, you guys will, they have, being Warner, they have enough power that it's like, if I'm like, hey, I want to collaborate with this person, I love this character, I love this show, I love this series, can
Hmm.
we get in touch and see if there's any room for me to make a song for them? Is there,
Yeah.
like, they are certainly people who could make that introduction.
Hmm.
And so I like that, not even just for Moonwalker. I just like that for me, being able to collaborate with other artists, write for other artists, compose, for soundtrack stuff, and
Hmm.
like anything like that. In addition to them shopping around my existing catalog and hopefully getting some syncs, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's all nice too, but I really like them. I really trust them. I really think that they understand what I'm trying to do with the music and how to sort of present that to the
Hmm.
right spaces. And also, I think that I got a wide array of interests, and I want to do a lot within music, even outside of just like being an artist.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a no-brainer due to all the doors that they could open on sort of that end of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there a dream collaboration for you?
Ooh, there's a couple. There's a couple. I guess Trent Reznor would be crazy, especially because I just think that like there's like gaps that could be not even just like, oh, I love him, like I do think he's the shit, but like
Hmm.
I love Jack White, but like we kind of do very similar things. Like I'd
Yeah.
love to collaborate with him, but it's not necessarily like a match made in heaven kind of.
Hmm.
Me and Trent Reznor, I feel like he is really good at things that I'm not really good at, but that I love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that with the programming and the synths and sampling things in a weird way and creating an atmosphere, these are things I care about a lot, and skills that I'm trying to
Hmm.
develop, but I'm not necessarily as good at those as I am at like the guitar or something like
Yeah.
that. So like I just really respect what he does, and it's really outside of what I do
Hmm.
as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does.
Also, like probably the biggest dream collab, like Kendrick would be crazy.
Hmm.
I would love to work on anything with Kendrick in any capacity. Jack White would be so much fun, but that would probably just be better like as a tour,
Yeah.
that rather than like a collaboration.
Hmm.
And Johnny Greenwood would be crazy as well. Anyone in Radiohead as a whole, but like I am so obsessed with the Phantom Thread and the Spencer soundtrack. I love all the soundtracks, but those two in particular are just so good. I would love to get in
Hmm.
the studio with him.
Yeah. Those sound like they would be amazing collaborations.
Yeah, that would be like absolute dreams. A bit out of reach maybe, but
You never know.
maybe Warner can get them more in reach.
Yeah. You never know what's possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your favorite part about being on tour?
Oh, good question. I honestly really like every part of it, minus like when we have to like get up early or long travel days,
Hmm.
or it's a little bit, sometimes all the steps I have to take to sort of like preserve my voice get like annoying, but I'm choosing to do them
Yeah.
with the level of frequency that I am. Like I'm doing it based on what will make me feel better. So I can't complain too much. I obviously the shows are amazing, but also just like I don't know, it's really 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 fun to travel like with your friends. Like it's
Hmm.
just like there's such a different vibe between like going on a vacation like with your family versus like going on a vacation with your friends. It's just
Yeah.
totally different. I love trying like the coffee shops and the restaurants and wherever we are. That's a lot of
Hmm.
fun. That's always a big part of travel for me anyway, and kind of getting to see the place is like,
Yeah.
I like food a lot. So like the food and the coffee is pretty much 60% of what's going to determine how much I like a place.
Hmm.
So that's all just really fun. But I don't know. It's awesome getting to like travel with people who I could just like hang out with all the time, because that's
Hmm.
exactly like what we do.
Yeah, that's good. That's important to like the people you're on tour with.
Yeah, that's true. It would be, I'm sure, a little bit more brutal without that. I'm sure I'd be missing home and missing my. The truth is, and this sounds funny, but like right now on this particular tour, the biggest hardship that I am facing, well, not hardship. The thing that bothers me the most is that I can't be at home playing Spider-Man 2. Like it bothers me that every day that I'm not playing Spider-Man 2, I'm susceptible to having something spoiled.
Hmm.
And I waited so long for that. Like if anything even remotely dims the excitement of experiencing things for the first time, I will be bummed.
Okay. So what are you looking forward to the most on this tour?
Oof. Atlanta tonight. I've been actually. It sounds like a cop out just because it's like tonight, but Atlanta has been a show that I've been really, really, really excited about. A lot of people have always asked me to go to Atlanta. That one always was selling incredibly well, and the venue is really famous. I've always known about this venue. I've always
Hmm.
watched interviews with people at this venue, and it's like supposed to be haunted. I've always been curious about exploring it. Never been to Atlanta. Super, super, just excited about that in general. That's gonna be awesome. What else am I excited for? I guess just I've not spent too much time in Texas, and I know the food
Hmm.
there's great. I love Tex-Mex. Like Torchy's is in Denver, so
Hmm.
that's like always a must hit for me in Denver. And I'm sure that there's like better versions of Torchy's in Texas, so
Yeah.
that'll be nice. The food in Texas, I'm sure, will be great.
How do you get your food recommendations when you're on tour?
We're pretty good at searching the internet and
Hmm.
doing things. I pride myself on being good at finding the good spots between lists and stuff like that. Sometimes we get erect though. Like Tom, my manager, gave us some like recommendations for Atlanta while
Hmm.
we're here. Although that's another, I really want to try like lemon. I've had lemon pepper wings, but it's a big thing here,
Hmm.
and they have like lemon pepper dry and lemon pepper wet. And I've never had lemon pepper like wet wings, so I'm
Hmm.
excited about that. But yeah, we'll probably just like checklists. Like I'll look at like
Okay.
a best coffee list. I'll find a good. I can always tell if it's a bullshit list or not. Like I can. There's some dead giveaways, and it's really nice. I love coffee. I mean, like it's really, even like when I'm looking at a place to live or something, it's like there has to be good coffee. If there
Hmm.
is not good coffee, I cannot be there. It's too much. It gives me way too much. Even like I'm trying not to do dairy on this tour, but it's like
Hmm.
I will allow myself my 4 ounces of milk in my morning cappuccino,
Hmm.
because it's a balance between like being healthy and ready for the tour and like
Yeah.
being not miserable. And
Right.
coffee is, I would be miserable thinking about the coffee I'm missing out on.
Yeah, it's important balance.
Exactly. Sometimes you gotta say fuck it to the vocal cords to get a little bit of serotonin.
Exactly. So with your song American Dream Come True, it explores a toxic work culture and its impact on mental health. So what do you want listeners to take away from that?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I guess maybe, and again, I don't necessarily make songs so for people to
Right.
have a takeaway,
Yeah.
but if I'm gonna sort of like look at the themes I was exploring and what I would hope people take away, I would hope that there's a lot of people who are aware of what I'm saying and they agree with it, and they still have to be a part of that. It's like a price of like living here. Like
Yeah.
that's how we operate. That's how wages are as such that you have to be a part of that if you want to live a life
Yeah.
in most instances. And so like I certainly would never dream of criticizing people on that end of things, but there is a not insignificant percentage of people, particularly in the older generation, who think that that's good. Like they
Hmm.
actually think that, like, they don't just accept that this is a harsh reality of life. They are like, welcome to life. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We work. Like, if you don't work all day, you're lazy. Like, yeah, you shouldn't expect to get a living wage working at what I deem a non-essential job. You shouldn't.
Hmm.
Like, there are people who will defend the concept that you should just like spend an entire life working so that you can have 5 years of not working after you've retired as like an
Yeah.
old person who no longer even has access to their full bodily autonomy so that they can fully enjoy those years. Like, there are people
Hmm.
who don't just find themselves in that predicament. There are people who defend, who say, like, this is what it is. I'm going to teach my kids that this is how it is. I'm going to defend this. When bills or whatever are put in place that will make that better, like raising wages or something like that, I will go against them. Like,
Hmm.
there are people in the working class who oppose any type of effort to make life better and
Hmm.
easier and make work not so essential. So maybe I would hope that those people, but it is funny. I mean, like, when I promote that song, there's always people like, oh, you sound pretty lazy to me. Like, that's the takeaway. And again, the song is
Yeah.
not like you think, I don't want to work. The song is like joking about, like, yep, all that life is wake up, work all day, and sleep. It's like, you shouldn't agree with that. Like, this
Right.
shouldn't be like a, yeah, and what about it?
Hmm.
But there is, again, a not insignificant, because you can always sit down, punch down on the 20 people who believe some crazy bullshit. I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in criticizing ideas that I find to be abysmal, like unjustifiably stupid,
Hmm.
that are believed by a lot of people. Not like
Yeah.
some tiny little subsidiary, like a a very sizable percentage of the United States of America will defend these really, really illogical viewpoints.
Hmm.
Work culture being, I don't know, one of the biggest ones probably at this point.
Yeah. So your journey as Moonwalker began during the pandemic. So how have the past few years, now that we're no longer in a pandemic, influenced your identity as an artist?
Oh, good question. The biggest way, I guess, is just introducing live stuff.
Hmm.
Really, I mean, like, I did it when I couldn't play live. Playing live has always been a big part of my DNA. Always been a big part. I've always loved making records too. Like I'm not one of those people who like is either kind of like, just trying to capture the live energy in a record or trying to replicate the record live or something like that. Like,
Hmm.
I love making records, and entirely separate from that, not related in any way, shape, or form, I love playing live.
Hmm.
So like I kind of like keeping those things very separate. So in COVID, it wasn't like it really messed with my ability to make music or write music or think
Yeah.
about music by not being able to play it live. But that's like, it was an essential part of my character that
Hmm.
I couldn't sort of express. And so since COVID has ended, sort of being able to rediscover myself as like a performer and like
Hmm.
figure out how to make this music happen live, that's been huge. It's almost like I would say that like you evolve and you change and whatever, but like
Yeah.
the Moonwalker that I established in pandemic, like that hasn't changed, but that was just like 50% of the picture. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like the records that I make are still just continuing on like Truth to Power, really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're getting far better, but like I wouldn't say that I've yet hit the point where it's like, oh, that I didn't know what I was doing there. Now this is a totally separate thing. Like
Hmm.
I've been progressing as a record maker, and now I'm able to also start progressing as a performer again.
Yeah. So you've also faced a lot of censorship issues on social media platforms. How have those experiences shaped your perspective on, free speech and the influence of social media on society?
A lot, the social media's impact on society for sure, because
Hmm.
I would have been, and a lot of people both in far right and in far left spaces who have all kind of come to terms with the fact that the mainstream media is, I don't say like disreputable, some are, but like there's just other factors,
Hmm.
there's money to be made, and when there's money to be made, that will be in consideration, and that will
Yeah.
rarely lead you to a better option or a more truthful kind
Hmm.
of option. And so like I think that a lot of people who have realized that they can't exactly trust the same sources that their parents trust have kind of accepted maybe like TikTok is like their new information hub.
Hmm.
And I feel like had I not experienced what I did, I might have been one of those people. I
Hmm.
might have been one of those people who said like the only place, for example, this is a big thing I see, like the only place where I can get an honest look at what is going on in the Israel Palestine conflict is on TikTok. This
Okay.
is a very, very leftist viewpoint right now, a
Hmm.
very leftist viewpoint, and I consider myself a leftist. And that is something I very, very, very strongly disagree with. Which is not to say that you're going to get a more accurate look at that on like CNN or something like that.
Right.
But I definitely 1000% do not believe that in order to break away from the noise and the censorship and the financial interests, you go to TikTok. I think that is bullshit. I think that they're the exact same in
Hmm.
different ways. And so I'm just skeptical of anything I see anywhere, including TikTok. Why, if this was really such controversial information, and if someone really didn't want me to see this, TikTok would fucking ban it. They
Hmm.
would. Like,
Yeah.
it would be down. It doesn't matter if it's truthful. It doesn't matter if it's accurate. If TikTok didn't want that, if some corporate interest didn't want you to see that, TikTok would be censoring it,
Hmm.
period. And so, like, I definitely do not trust social media as an alternative form of like news. But I
Hmm.
just think it's important anytime you see something that kind of makes you go, really? Like, what? That seems weird. Check a bunch of sources. You know what I mean? Like, look at a lot. Check TikTok. See what they're saying on TikTok. Check Twitter. Check the mainstream media outlets. Check the
Hmm.
secondary media outlets. You know, and generally you can find you can figure out what's going on because certain things are popping up everywhere and it's being corroborated everywhere. And somewhere you'll find evidence, and somewhere you'll find a historically reputable person or source reporting
Yeah.
on this with proof, with boots on the ground. I mean, like, but I think that a lot of people who have written off the mainstream media have just embraced like TikTok or something like
Hmm.
that as much as our parents embraced the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And I think that's bad. I think that people need to maintain the same level of skepticism when they're on TikTok that they do when they're on Fox News, to be
Hmm.
honest. And obviously, like on Fox News, you can bet that that's bullshit. Like, you can look at Fox News and be like, this is clearly a lie, without even reading the headline that is obviously inflammatory and bullshit. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But TikTok, it's still the likelihood that you are seeing it is just as unchecked as Fox News, which is crazy because like TikTok is just random people posting things. So it's
Yeah.
crazy that I can make a statement like it is as unchecked as somebody who calls themselves a news station and appears on television. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But like we are way past the point of addressing that Fox News is bullshit. There's a lawsuit now in which Fox News says of themselves,
Hmm.
it is your fault if you believe us. If you're dumb enough to believe us, that's on you. And
Yeah.
they actually got out of being charged criminally because that was their defense. So like we're past it, but TikTok is certainly no different. I mean, like, should come as no surprise considering it's just randos making
Yeah.
videos like with nothing to keep them in check other than arbitrary community guidelines. But
Hmm.
I definitely think that having kind of firsthand experience with it, I know to be as skeptical of, you know, a leftist on social media as I am of
Hmm.
Fox News.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, just healthy skepticism. Everybody needs that. And that kind of goes to the hive mind way of thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even people who are like, oh, well, I'm not going to be a sheep. I'm not going to listen to one news source. But then it's like, okay, they have a source, though. They have a source. If you talk to them and you're like talking to them, they're going to be like, oh, you're looking at the mainstream news. Oh, no, what you need to do is you need to go on TikTok. Here's 3 people on TikTok who are showing it, who are telling it how it is. Like,
Hmm.
you're the fucking same. Like, you're the
Yeah.
exact same. You should not be getting your information from one place.
Right.
And the takeaway should not be, oh, don't get your information from Fox News. The takeaway should be, don't get your information from one place. Don't
Right.
have one place that tells you every single thing. And fundamentally, most people do.
Yeah.
Even if they're getting it from a better place than someone else. Like, we do have this desire to have like this high, we have this desire to have other people do the hard thinking for us.
Hmm.
We have this desire now, this is new, I think, to participate in dialogue, but we don't really have a desire to like go understand something. So we kind of like want, in order to like be a part of the conversation, we just sort of like want the quick, easy answers.
Yeah.
And so we want to find like somebody who we think is giving us pretty good answers and take that and then go be like a fucking crusader on the internet.
Hmm.
And I might have fallen victim to that if TikTok didn't make it very, very clear to me that they had a very nefarious agenda to push, you know.
Hmm. So how are you avoiding censorship now, or trying to?
Interestingly, the day after the CEO of TikTok appeared in front of Congress and Congress made a fool of themselves, one day later, I'm not exaggerating, TikTok completely and totally overhauled their community guidelines process. Like,
Hmm.
it changed. It did not resemble the old one in any way, shape, or form. Every single prior violation was wiped out and they changed it like significantly, like
Mhm.
which proves that like TikTok was up to something. And like our government is way too fucking stupid to get to the root of what that was, way too
Yeah.
stupid to know the right questions to ask. But there was certainly some sketchy shit going on. I
Mhm.
have no reason to believe it involves the Chinese government or some shit like that. But like without a single question, TikTok had interests in
Mhm.
something that wasn't content.
Yeah.
TikTok had some vested interest in this shit, even if they were trying to sell ad space or trying to make it. I don't know. I have no trying to just kind of guide people's sort of interests back away from like controversial talk. I have no idea, but TikTok definitely had very clear things that they did and did not want discussed on their platform.
Mhm.
And it wasn't to do with things like hate speech. It was to do with some other kind of more personal, or not personal, maybe some other kind of like arbitrary thing of arbitrary agenda, I would say.
Yeah.
And I have not run into any issues since, so that's great. But that, I mean, it was a solid year of just like hell. Like I couldn't really post on TikTok, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. Like I'd make a post, it'd get taken down, I'd be banned for a week. I'd make a post, it'd get taken down, I'd be banned for a week. I'd make a post, I'd be permanently banned. I'd be locked out for a month. I really couldn't do anything for a year, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's been better since.
That's good.
Yeah. No, all good now.
Can you tell us about any future plans that you have for Moonwalker?
Get through this tour basically
It's
is
a good
is is
plan.
my thing, and then beat Spider-Man 2.
Okay. Those are both good plans.
And then I'll get back to making records. But
Okay.
that's all I really have on the agenda. Actually, that's not true. I got some exciting news for another tour
Okay.
in April, May that I can't share yet, but that actually there is something to look forward to there. April,
Okay.
May,
That's
I
exciting.
will be back on tour.
Are you going to be going to different places or do you not know yet?
Yeah. I don't know all the places, but I know for a fact that I will be going to, in addition to some places in the US, going to Canada, which I've never been. So certainly
Oh,
wherever we
cool.
play in Canada is places that I've never been.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So before I ask the final question, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
Not that I can think of. I feel like we've pretty much covered all the bases.
Okay, so the last question is, what is the soundtrack of your life?
Ooh, that is such a good question. Do you mean like literally like what am I listening to right now, or like what plays in my head as I'm like walking around not listening to music?
So I actually leave that up for interpretation because I feel that it provides, more of an insight into each person.
Okay, yeah, totally. Let's think here. I feel like the soundtrack to my life is probably the Edward Scissorhands soundtrack.
Okay. I like it.
Don't know why. Don't know where from what angle I approached finding that answer, but that feels right to me. It's like the best soundtrack ever written.
Yeah,
So
it's a good one.
we'll just go with that one.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. So for any of our listeners that want to follow you and stay updated on new music and your new tour that's going to be announced whenever, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Moonwalker Band. Instagram is Moonwalker Band Official, but everywhere else you can pretty much find me as Moonwalker Band.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a good show tonight.
Great, thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Listeners, go check it out and make sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at STO Lives Podcast. Thanks for joining us.